We're originally from the Seattle area. We escaped about 8 years ago. We lived down in the Phoenix area. And just so you know, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, there were 3 or 4 days when it was warmer here than Phoenix. And, but it's been wild. But we got here and we RV'd this year. We left the beginning of April. We still have not been back home. We didn't know where COVID was going to be or anything. So we've been in 31 states, working in North Carolina and Branson, Missouri, and all Pennsylvania. We've been Oshkosh, Wisconsin, just about everywhere. And so this has been really great. But when we arrived, we're sitting there setting up camp, so to speak, and all of a sudden, these people show up with all these baskets full of all of this stuff, and I don't think I even got everything. And thanks to Julie and her crew, a lot of it was from Grand Forks. And so you'll see some of the stuff we visited, and we've gained quite a bit of weight since we got those baskets. And we fell in love with Widman's chocolates, you know, and I mean, you name it. But anyway, so that was really a great introduction. It's like, wow, you know, and so that was awesome. Now, if you see anything you want to take pictures of, help yourself. Just so you know, this presentation I am giving to Don and the Red River Regional Council. So they've got it. They will have the actual presentation, PDF, so if you want any of the stuff, it's yours. You can say, we even want I use Apple Keynote, but we could do PowerPoint, whatever you want. Say, if you want to take it and use it. Today I'm preaching to the choir. And the people that need to hear it might not be here today. And so if you ever want copies of that, contact Dawn or her staff, and they'll get you copies of it, and then you could use it whatever you want. You may say, this here is pretty extensive because we've got not just Grand Forks, but we've got 8 or 9 other smaller communities in this presentation. So you may say, well, these apply to us, and you could take out the other ones. It's yours to use however you want. And so what we've been doing, and Don kind of alluded to this, is that we've been secret shopping this whole region, all 4 counties. So this includes like 42, every incorporated city that is in Pembina, Walsh, Nelson, and Grand Forks counties. And like Don said, there was no heads up, there was no you got to do this, you got to do that. You know, we just came here like anybody else would come here. And we've done 2,200 of these. We've done 60 in Wisconsin. We've done probably 25 in Minnesota. We have worked in some areas in North Dakota. And then, and so this is something we've done a lot. And on this trip, these that are coming up on your screen are all the places we came. And by the way, before we got here, and I'll share this with you, we'd been worked in other areas of North Dakota. I had never been north of Grand Forks, ever before. And we've worked we've spoken up in Winnipeg, and we've worked all across Canada. Canada's like a second home to us. So on this trip, we had to go visit every single one of these communities. That's how we ended up driving almost 2,400 miles, and right, a lot of gravel roads. There's this really great car wash in Park River that guy's getting rich just off of us washing our car. But those are all the places we've been on this trip. And then, of course, when we do this, we look at your marketing materials. And this is for every town. We looked at the counties. How do you stand out? Was it easy to get information? Was it good enough to close the sale? How did you stand up to your competitors? You know, but what I'm going to concentrate on today is really the on-site, what we physically saw and what we photographed, like signage, gateways, all of those kinds of things, your homes, your neighborhoods, you know, commercial areas, merchants, all of these things. And you're going to see it, photographic look at you through the eyes of somebody who might be coming here as a place to live or retire or raise a family. So we wear that hat. And not as a baby boomer. We look at it, basically, I do a lot of demographic research and speaking about demographics, about millennials and Gen Xers and boomers and all these generations. So we mainly looked at this through the eyes of people in their 30s. So that would be younger people. The millennials, the biggest generation in U.S. history. and that's your future. So we look at that. We look at a place to work, invest in. Would I start a business here? And as a leisure visitor. So even though our background is really tourism development and downtown development, really this is really about economic development, which tourism is part of, and that's where we always struggle with economic developers that think tourism is the bane of economic development. Not so fast. And I'm going to get more into that. In North Dakota, we've worked up in Williston, we've spoken up in Minot, we've worked over in Madera and all over the place. Bismarck, I mean, Fargo, here. And in 2019, and we've been through 94 through the state many times. And so we know that pretty well. And in I think it was 2018 or 19, I was invited to speak at your Main Street Conference, the North Dakota Main Street Conference, which was the second largest one in the country. There were 650 people there. I think it was in Bismarck. And I remember afterwards, a guy came up to me and says, Roger, I think you're my new best friend. And the aide said, Roger, this is Doug Burgum, our governor. And he's made Main Street his #1 priority, he said, to attract people. And at the time, he said, we had 60,000 jobs in North Dakota, and most of those paid like $100,000 or more a year, and you can't fill them. And we're trying to figure out how do we increase our population in North Dakota because we have this cloud hanging over us. And I'm going to get into that in our experience. And so anyway, and here's all the places we went right here. So we've been in Reynolds, Thompson, Northwood, I mean, all these communities of where we've spent time, and I'm going to talk about each of these. Now, when we did this whole assignment, this is really the bottom line is what else could we do to make it even better? So if you see something, this is not about saying, boy, they didn't do a good job. This is not about looking backwards. When we haven't been here before, so we don't know what's changed from in the past to the current, but this is about what else could you do to make it even better place to live, work, and play. And that might include increasing the population, increasing local investment. It might be about finding ways local business could be more successful, and including entrepreneurial opportunities. We did pull demographics, and this is for the whole county, what you're doing here, and this is your growth. This is the only county out of these 4 that's actually gaining population, not losing population. But when we dig deeper, all that growth is right here. It's in Grand Forks. It might be Thompson and the ones, what you might call bedroom communities. But really that growth was here. It wasn't in other parts of even Grand Forks County. So we did look at that. And so that's good news that you're doing that. And I could see why. There you go. So it's right there. Now, here's a big thing that we've been talking about is if you want new residents, if you want new growth, if you want those things, it means change. And it's never easy, it's never hard. And when I'm talking about change, it's things like when we see blown out signs like that. What is your first impression? And so this is all about first impressions. I can't even assess where we live because I know it too well. But now you're going to see what we saw as an outsider, like anybody else coming to find a place to live, work, or play. And without change, communities die. And out of these 42 communities, there are about 10 right now, out of those, like a quarter of them, that are on their way down. There are more ghost towns in the making today in the United States than ever before in U.S. history. And so how do you prevent that from happening to some of yours? And if you're willing to embrace change, and for any community, we have run into communities, I have to tell you, that we've run into 2 or 3 people that are on city councils, like yesterday, that put their hands over their ears because they just didn't want to hear about it. I mean, there's some of that still here, and I call it the good old boys network, where we're not relinquishing our future to the youth. We're just stuck, and we don't want change. And so I had a mayor yesterday literally covering his ears because he didn't want to hear what we had to say. And you just go, you can't help people that don't want to be helped. And of course, so if there's communities here that don't want, most of you are from Grand Forks, which is great. So here's the setup. I wanted to give you 7 quick facts that are so important that are driving everything. And this is the biggest one. For the first time in U.S. history, jobs are going where the talent is or where the talent wants to be. That never happened before about 7 or 8 years ago. In the past, we always went wherever there was work, but not anymore. And I'm going to show you the research behind that. But that is changing everything. I mean, look at this. Community development, for the first time in American history, is leading economic development and tourism development. That means we're in the age of placemaking. And one of the things that impressed me more than anything is seeing what's going on in downtown Grand Forks. Grand Forks is turning into a world-class city. It's amazing what you're doing. And I've been really blown away by that. And no wonder your population's growing. And that's so important to this. Quality of life is leading economic development. And here's the other thing about that, is that every single elected official, from the President of the United States to your governor, to your school boards, to your city councils, county commissioners, all of those, the focus of every elected official is improving the quality of life for their citizens. So every time an elected official gets sent an item we want to work on, you know, they should say, will this improve the quality of life for our citizens? But there's been a problem, and I'll give you just one example, and I don't mean to pick on anybody, but in Grafton, I spent quite a while with the parks director up there. He says, you know, we wanted to put in a dog park, and the attitude was, we've never had one before, why would we want one now? See what I mean? So they're not saying, well, would this improve the quality of life for our citizens? And then when they put in the dog park, the people on the council were complaining, we spent that much money for a fence. See what I mean? And so there's always pushback. And he says, every time I want to get something done, I have to kind of fight because I want to make it better for our citizens. And so what happens is, and Don alluded to this conservative point of view that, by God, we're not going to spend anything on anything unless we have to do it. And so what happens is, I've run into this everywhere I've been in these 4 counties, except for Grand Forks, is we're reactive rather than proactive. And that is going to, you know, so they need to say, well, will this improve the quality of life of our citizens? Then maybe it's a good investment. And so that's been a challenge. So your mission for every one of your towns, are we the best place to live in North Dakota, the Red River region, or in Grand Forks County? So that's number 1. Number 2 is the front door. Tourism is the front door to your non-tourism economic development. Anybody who's going to come here is going to come first as a visitor. Is this a place my client would want to live? Their employees would want to live. And so when people tell me, oh, tourism, it's the low-paying jobs in economic development, I'm going, not so fast. Because it is the front door. As a matter of fact, nothing sells quality of life like tourism. And if quality of life is leading economic development, and I'm going to tell you, every single city website should look like a tourism website. You have to sell the quality of life. And number 3 on this list, the benefit of tourism, we love it. People come, they spend money, and they go home, and there's my favorite water tower in the entire country. I like the other side even better with the blink. But that's really important. We like that. We don't have to have the social infrastructure. We don't have to police them if we're bringing in the right kind of visitors. I mean, it's great. And the number 1 activity of visitors in the world is that. It's not the reason they come, but it's the number 1 activity once they arrive. So if they come here for a convention, if they come here for a football game, if they come here for harvest, they come here for any of those reasons, this is what they do in their downtime. And that's why I'm so impressed with downtown Grand Forks. And by the way, that is where 80% of the non-lodging visitor spending takes place. You know, I did teaching for Disney Institute. This is why they put downtown Disney outside every one of their parks, for that reason right there. And so, you know, visitors want local flavor, like Widman's. I mean, they provided some chocolate. They provided like 5 pounds of chocolate. We still haven't eaten through it, but it's fantastic. But we always want something local. The last thing, no offense to Chili's and Subway and all the chains, we want what's local to you. And that is really great. Chains and franchises don't really cut it. And then you must be able to monetize your tourism efforts. And that's why I say, if you can't monetize tourism efforts, no wonder your locals don't like it. You know what I mean? If people are coming in, because, you know, and this is something I've used. I said people from Grand Forks could go all the way up to Pembina Gorge and get there in a couple hours, spend all day there, and then come back home and not spend any money in any of these counties, and they just went through all of them. See what I mean? And so the thing is, can you monetize it? And that's really critical. And then the primary benefit of tourism is the fastest, easiest way to build local economies, particularly in the rural areas. It can create jobs. It can create quality, improves quality of life, on and on and on. And here's another one that's really important. Marketing will bring people to you once. Just once. The only thing that ever brings people back is the primary attraction, whether it was harvest, whether it was a conference, whether it was visiting friends and family, which is the #1 reason people travel. That's a primary, that will bring them back. But then, what else do you got for me while we're here? What is your lodging like? What is your dining like? How about public restrooms? What about parking, visitor information? All of those things are those supporting amenities, and then the overall ambience, and then the people we interact with. That's what brings people back. And it's a whole lot cheaper to bring people back than to always get new ones. And so that's really great. And then #6, almost done with this. Locals first. If you don't hang out in your town, neither will visitors. They go where you go. So when we're up in these other communities, they say, oh, when friends and family visit, we take them to Grand Forks. Good news for Grand Forks, bad news for Grafton or wherever they're coming from. And so that's really critical. We go where you go. And it's always about locals first. And then finally, the last one of this is what new residents are looking for. And this was done research by Forbes, Money Magazine, Niche.com, Livability.com, USA Today. I can't remember, there's I think University of Michigan was involved. And all these organizations polled millennials, people in their late 20s, all the way through the 30s, and 41, 42 years old, in that group, mainly in their 30s, and said, because we're now mobile. I mean, I just did a whole webinar on Zoom towns where we can work from anywhere now. And so where do you want to live? And by the way, this 2020 was the most mobile this country has ever been, where people just says, I can be anywhere I want to be. And I can work from anywhere. I mean, heck, we're in an RV. We're called digital nomads now because we're out there working wherever we want to be. We could be anywhere. So they asked these people, what are the 10 things in order of importance for you? And #1 was safety, particularly for kids. One thing you have to understand is that boomers were having their kids in their early 20s. Millennials and Gen Xers are having their kids in their late 30s and early 40s. It makes them better parents. It makes them a little more mature. And fathers are spending twice as much time with their kids as our generation did. And so that's #1, safety, protection. And these are things you need to promote in your community if you've got them. So that people say, well, I'm going to check out Northwood, or I'm going to check out wherever these towns are, and they want to see how safe it is. And I think you have that. #2 is good educational system and childcare. And what they do is they will go on the web, and like I put, best schools in Northeast North Dakota. And a lot of them go right there, niche.com always shows up, and then niche.com rates them. So now you can see them. There's West Fargo, there's Jamestown, there's Bismarck, there's Valley City, there's Minot, Lincoln. We keep going, Devil's Lake, Rugby, Dickinson. I mean, it just keeps going down, and those are all Bs. We get right down even. Grafton's got a B, that's good. You know, Williston, I mean, you name it. And so they're looking for that. How do your schools rank? And they want an engaged community, a sense of belonging. They want to feel welcome. And I have to tell you that we've been in towns over this last month where when we're in town, we're walking around with I have a big camera, and people are going like this, like, what are you doing? I mean, it's just like, you know, one town we were in, it's one of the towns in your county, you'll see it. they were sitting in front of a tavern in the middle of the day, the middle of the week, and we were just driving down the street, taking a couple pictures, and a guy walks on and said, "What are you taking pictures of?" And those to a millennial would just go, "We're out of this town." Just like that. They'll make a judgment based on one person. And so they want to feel welcome. One thing that's really important, the millennial generation is the most civically minded generation in U.S. history. There are more mayors under the age of 35 today than ever before in U.S. history. Heck, I'm part of the boomers. We were down with the establishment. Then we became the establishment and really screwed it up. And so, and so will you embrace somebody that's going to start a local business? They're going to come into your town and they're going to feel, they're going to size you up. We walk into a little local restaurant or something and we're going to make those judgments. I mean, we want community pride. And so they're going to do exactly what we did. We took pictures of houses because that's community pride. So if they're putting out the fall decorations or they have gardens out there or all of these are all ideas that we say, oh, quality of life looks good here. The homes look welcoming. They take care of it. I mean, I could go through all of you, looking at almost every town. And this is, they're judging you by this stuff. They're not always judging you by your downtown. We look at your gateways, all of these things. And that's what they're doing. They're coming in and secret shopping you. Is this a place I'd want to live? I mean, Larimore, right now you have to forgive my pictures of Larimore. They're ripping up all the streets. But to them, it's positive change. They see things changing for the better. But once again, we're looking at the houses. How are they? How are the neighborhoods? How are the schools? Number 5 on this list is we want life after sex. Anybody get that? That was a problem everywhere except in this city. And it doesn't mean the bar season. They just want life, something to do after 6. And I got ideas for that. And number 6, we want recreation, surpassing competing areas. What's your recreation like? And they're going to judge it, whether it's ball fields, whether it's trail systems, whether it's your pools, all of these things. So we're looking for that recreation. That's a big challenge in North Dakota, where you have 2.9% of your state is public lands. The next lowest is 20%. And so that's a real challenge for you with recreation because a lot of it, so much of it is private land. But these are the things we're looking for. And number 7 is we want quality health care, particularly for kids. And we talk about health care, we're talking about clean air, good water, farmers markets, local products and goods, family services. That's all part of this. And number 8 on this list is we want walking and biking. We want walkability. Pathways, school transportation. I mean, I love the Greenway in Grand Forks. That just makes you world class all by itself. And then, and of course, there you go. This was amazing. And we, unfortunately, we didn't get to walk it all. We had to work, but we would have. And then housing availability, affordability, the quality. The one thing that just shocked the heck out of us was the housing prices in Grand Forks. I mean, I was like, wow, we thought Seattle was like 5th most expensive place in the United States, and your prices were right there. And then if you see a house for sale, we've been watching in all these towns, you're really short on housing, but here, I was just like, wow. And then I could figure out now I know why Thompson's growing so fast and their prices aren't that much less. And so that we don't want just cheap housing, we want decent housing. And by the way, this even in commercial areas where you do live workspace would be included in that. Starter homes, move-ups, nice neighborhoods, downsizing, whatever it is. Even places like this, people will move into them right in the middle of downtowns. And for little towns that have less than a couple hundred people, chances are your downtown's not going to be really revitalized in the age of Amazon. And so this is a great opportunity to do that. And then number 10 is jobs. You believe it? If you have the first 9, they will say, now we want to live there. Can I find a job? Do I need to commute? Can I create a job, or is there an opportunity for me? It's number 10. This is the total flip from the way it was even 10 or 15 years ago. And that's what you have to understand. And so now, our Grand Forks County experience. I want you to do this in little chapters. First is myth busting, quality of life, tapping into tourism, and then commerce. And the first one is this myth busting. And this is typically what people perceive. So I went on the web, I looked at research of what the perceptions are of North Dakota. So this is not our perceptions. These are the perceptions. There are no trees. You know, which I thought, and they also said that in Iowa and half of Kansas. You know, it's barren, it's flat, it's desolate, it's a frozen tundra, it's boring. There's nothing there. I mean, and we got here, remember, we'd never been north of Grand Forks, and our big, like, really? But what happens is I start going to all your city websites, I start going to all these places, and the photography isn't there dispelling these myths. And so, I mean, look at Emerado. I mean, no trees, really? I could just go through these. Gilby, no trees, really? I mean, just look at this. I mean, Inkster, no trees, really? You know, every single town we were in was loaded with trees. I particularly love that one. And I mean, just everywhere we went, we just went, where's this misperception? You know, and I get it. If you're driving up 29, they're judging this whole part of the state by 29. And what you see north of here is maybe you don't see many trees, you see agriculture. And they don't realize if you go 20 miles west, all of a sudden it's totally different. And so every one of these towns, I'm just going, you know, if I showed these pictures to people in, it doesn't matter, any state other than here, and without the city names on them, if I showed these and said, I want you to guess, I'll give you 10 guesses what state this is, I'll bet you North Dakota would not come up on any of them. And it's because I can't find this kind of photography. I mean, you know, it's just not there. But then you look at this. You need to load your websites with rotating photos that show what your quality of life is. Now, we got here in September. I figured fall color in North Dakota, absolutely not. You go to the Appalachians, you go to Virginia, you go to the Blue Ridge Parkway. But the fall color has been spectacular. Who knew? And so I think this is a problem. By the way, you're going to see a lot of these, those little circles there. There's no recommendations in this presentation. I think it'd be presumptuous for me to come into town and say, you need to do all this stuff when we haven't even talked to you first. So these are just suggestions. So these are suggestions you can say, yeah, we should do that. Up north, one of the very few websites that actually looked modern was this one, and that's Cavalier, other than Grand Forks. But, you know, so we're looking here, great photo, city of Emerado. You know, that's not terrible, but it still looks dated. And if it looks dated, younger people are going to go, I want to be somewhere that's more modern. And by the way, it should be for every single 50 words, there should be another photo. You know, but I see the garden up there. I think that's a great photo. It would be nice if there's somebody sitting in a bench, because we relate to people more than just scenery. And always have people in your photographs. And so I think that's really important. Now, Gilby has these little, you know, they did these little photos, which is good. At least it shows people, and it looks like they're having a good time. So I think overall, I think they did a pretty good job. You know, but then we go to places like, Inkster doesn't even have a website. You know, and Inkster has some challenges anyway. But you can go to Wix, Weebly, WordPress. I tell all these little towns, just even work with your high school. You could buy a template for $20 to $60, and you just start loading photographs on it. And we're going to give you all the photos we took, even though I would replace them over time with people in them, because a lot of them were scenic. You know, City of Larimore welcomes you. But what do cities do? They show pictures of the gateway signs. And all of us they are going, really? You want us to judge your city by your gateway sign? And by the way, they take pictures of the polar bear. It looks like it's like real life size until you get there. You know, but it's just fast. Manvel Public School, they didn't have a website, so I went to the school website. It actually was pretty good. And so those are things we do. Empower every student every day. Somebody's looking for you. We might go to your school website. Does it do that? And I thought, well, that's good for them. That's a good tagline. And then here's Niagara, North Dakota, former home of a serial killer. I mean, really? Look at that. I just typed in Manvel or Niagara. No, Niagara. I typed in Niagara. And there it is. No website, but that's what we see. Former home of a serial killer. So of course, what did I do? I clicked on it. It was 100 years ago. And it's number 2 on the list after Wikipedia. And if you have a city website, it will put you Google will always put municipal websites number 1. And so, and of course, yeah, I did look at it. It was 100 years ago. A guy lived here, and when he died or whatever, they excavated his basement, and they found the remains of like 7 or 8 people. It's like, whoa. But that's what we saw. I mean, now here's the other thing we do. And this is a lot of millennials will do this. When they're looking in an area to live in, they don't know all the towns. So they might put in Grand Forks area. They might type in the name of a city. And what they'll do is they'll click on Google Images. So I typed in Niagara, North Dakota. And now what they will do is just look at Google Images, what shows up. Right now in Niagara, I don't see anything that make me want to live there. And I could scroll down that list. But if you populate your website with all of these photos, then all of a sudden Google picks those up and they show up there. And all of a sudden they go, wow, that looks really pretty. Look at the fall color. Look at the winter. Look at the summer. Those are things you have to do. Here's Northwood. Once again, we're so proud of our gateway sign. And I'm going, no, that doesn't sell me on quality of life. And so that's always a challenge. Every site should a visual look at Reynolds. Now Reynolds, actually has a visual first website, and that's the trick now. Visual first that's a really great one, but after that, there wasn't any more. It was just like every other website. And in this case, the city of Thompson, they use stock photos. I mean, we pick out stock photos just like this. So you need photos that were taken in your community. I think those are nice, but not for a minute. I think maybe the second one and the right one are probably pretty realistic, but the other 2 look like, oh, they just bought those from Shutterstock. And so, we see through that really quick. Grand Forks did a great job. North's 3rd largest city, located along the Red River. I mean, it goes on, and it's a good site. However, entrepreneurship, startup resource, I thought was great. Here's one change I would take to the city. I want to apply for, sign up for, find, where is the where's the one that says, well, here, let me show you. Oops, did I go past? I must have missed it there. Where's I want to live here. I want to start a business here. I want to visit here, and then it could link over to the CVB's website. And so I thought that was missing because that's where we're going to go. So I think you got to expand that with another row there. And then you can link to wherever that is, to economic development or whatever. But I do think, Simply Grand, Uniquely Forks, I love all of that. I think it's great. I think CVB does a great job, by the way. Excellent job. And so show homes with permission, wherever you're at. Just show, because otherwise we get a glimpse of what it's like there. It says, oh, that looks like a nice neighborhood. It doesn't look overly expensive. And you can show every style of house. And I just think that if you start showing pictures of homes, I mean, these we loved. You know what we did? We literally stayed as close to the greenway as we could. The whole way down, weaving all the way down until we get to the south end of Grand Forks. And of course, we passed so many of these that I thought, by the way, you want to see all 150 pictures I took of just houses in Grand Forks? Don't worry. But I mean, everywhere we went, wow. And so I think you got to show these because it shows quality of life. Now in Grand Forks, doesn't mean you always just show these. I think you have to show every range. smaller, bigger. I mean, that one there we really loved, and I was going, I wonder what it took to shingle that house. But it's just gorgeous. I mean, it's, pretty amazing. Well, we were blown away. Didn't expect that. But we also look at these things. When I saw Northrop Grumman and Emerado, I went, really? I was shocked. But then the town is not a place I would probably want to live if I worked there. See what I mean? And so it's like, well, what does the town need to do? And we're going to get into that. So, we look at your schools, your medical facilities, all of that. Emerado, the school looks great. So far we've got employment, we've got looks like a very nice school, and you'll see the rest of the town. Imagine this photo with somebody fly fishing there or photographing birds. If you put people in photos, then this is all stuff that people are going, this is North Dakota. Remember, we're still myth busting here. I would love to see these kinds of photos, and that one is a stock photo. Oh no, I took this from Julie's website, Visit Grand Forks. Sorry, that one's not.
I know those photos.
Yep, she knows those.
We painted blood.
Yes, and so that one is good. That's right. But in other ones, I've been showing stock photos, but I think these are what promotes quality of life. And so, man, when I say I want to live, even if I said I want to live in Grand Forks, I'd probably want to send them over to tourism's website, maybe downtown's website, and let them judge from that. So, and here's another one you did. So their photos are what every town needs to do, exactly like that. And that's why, Visit Grand Forks. This is fantastic. I got this with the Grand Forks Herald. Top 10 biking. This is what they said. Grand Forks is a top 10 biking city. And I just went, yeah, those are things we're finding. And so, but when we see these, now we see kids that are playing. We get the quality of life. Cities need to follow suit. Okay? And with this, provide photography for the people of rendezvous reason. There's another one, even for camping and RVing. And so when you do look back to Google Images, if I look at Grand Forks, I'm impressed. But there's no reason a little town can't look like this. Or a little town could say we're only 30 minutes away from Grand Forks or 20 minutes or whatever. But notice the difference. And a lot of these photos are being picked off of the CVB's website. And so that's what we want communities to do. Here I did, what did I do right there? Oh, Larimore. But once again, I'm in Larimore, and I'm not, it looks sort of okay, but then I see stuff like that, criminal, whatever it was, or, it's not really closing the sale because the photography is not there. So anyway, just to move on, I don't think that's true at all. It's hardly flat and barren. The further, even west, even in your county, promote recreational within a 45-minute drive. Those are day trips. And I always say keep your day trips to within 45 minutes drive. But look at the fall color. If you could see a couple people biking down that, people would be going, wow, I want to go there. This is missing. Look at Larimore Dam. I would hardly say that's flat. Even the golf course. And this is what I'm talking about populating our websites. That one I just found on Google Images, and it was probably him, engagement photo or wedding photo, whatever it is. But it's just amazing. And so it's hardly that, it's hardly the frozen tundra, but I will tell you this. I have worked in 45 states. I've been doing this for 40 years, not just 35. This is the only place I have been where everybody you meet, I will go, we have been here for several weeks. The weather's been fabulous. And you know what the response is? Well, you haven't been here in January. I'm going, what? Don and I were at a meeting in Grafton, and one of the people on the city council says, we can't even leave our houses for 7 months of the year. It's so bad. Really? Am I right? Don's sitting there going, my God. I know people that when they were interviewed for jobs here, in the interview, the employer would say, "Do you think you can tough it out through our winters?" Your winters are nothing over Iowa or Kansas or anywhere else. It's shocking. At the RV park we're at, which is Listico Park in Grafton. There's a big RV park, and I've had people come up to me and says, "You're here for harvest?" And I go, "No." And they go, if they're from, there's people from Idaho, there's people from Florida, there's people from all over the United States are here for harvest. And then when I talk to people from out of the state, and I say, "No, I'm not here for harvest," they said, "Well, what brings you here?" And I said, "Well, we're working with the Red River Regional Council. I think it's really cool." But there are people, because I ask them, "Where are you from?" Every single person that was from North Dakota, they come up and say, "So you here for harvest?" I go, "No." And they go, "Then why are you here?" With that face. I mean, what is with you as a state? And you wonder why you're losing population, why you have this cloud over you. I mean, heck, we live in Phoenix. And when somebody comes up and says, "Man, I love the weather here all winter," we don't say, "But you haven't been here in July." You know, we don't do that. You know what? We say, yeah, it's fabulous for 8 months. You know, and then they'll say, "Well, what's it like in July?" And says, "Well, it's pretty hot in July, but it's a dry heat." Yeah. Right? Right? And people say, "Oh, it's our Scandinavian heritage." Nope, because I've worked all over Minnesota and Wisconsin. And in Minnesota and Wisconsin, they don't sit there and go, "But have you been through our winters yet? Have you been here in January?" It's in North Dakota. I don't hear it in South Dakota. And of course, South Dakota says, "We have nothing in common with North Dakota, except for the name." You know, and it just has driven me crazy that the people here are so negative about yourselves. You know, I mean, I've talked to people that are here from, you're from Minnesota. Jake is from Wisconsin, you're from Minnesota. They do apologize no, he moved here, and as soon as you get here, it's like, you know, like it's going to be some shameful thing. And you're like almost apologetic before you even come here. And so that just drove me nuts. I don't know how you change that culture. But you know what? I think you should embrace winter. You need to have photos of people fat tire biking, or they're on, you know, I mean, even in Grafton, I was talking to Bill, the parks director, and he says, "We did this 1.5 mile. They bought a whole bunch of acres from the federal government for $100 an acre. They put trails on it. And the locals are like, "Now we just have more stuff we have to take care of." It's like, you don't get it. But he says, they actually rent cross-country skis. And people are going, "What's cross-country skiing?" And I'm going, "Really? Really? You don't know what that is?" And it's snowshoes. I mean, they're renting them. And people are coming out and say, "Well, this is pretty cool." They had no clue. You know, there's so many people in North Dakota that like leaving the state beyond East Grand Forks is like, "Oh my God, you know, what am I going to do?" And it drives me crazy. As far as Lincoln Park, I mean, it's just incredible. It's one of the best parks in the country. I mean, it's just showing you activity. So if you see people out there having a picnic or hiking or fishing from here, stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, canoeing, what you have here is amazing. You know, I mean, even that, the Arboretum there. I mean, look at all this stuff. You know, in Thompson, I mean, showcase your sporting things. I would do it when there's a game going on. You know, but even this, I put signs there that say, "Hey, we do an ice rink every winter." I mean, you're anything but this. We could have easily spent a good week here without running out of things. Heck, we could have spent a good week just in Grand Forks, but in the whole county, easy. And yet, look at that. None of these states have anything over in North Dakota. And yet I think North Dakotans are their own worst enemy. And it's not this room. I'm preaching to the choir here. I really believe you got to get in your high schools. You got to get into your, Jacob, that also works for the regional council. He's not here today. He grew up in the Grafton era. And he goes, well, that's the way we grew up. Ever since I was in kindergarten, we complain about the winters. He says, we just don't embrace it. That's what we do. We apologize to anybody coming to visit us. And I'm just going, he goes, that's just the way it is. And I think that's where you need to start making change, is at that level. And so I really believe the state needs more influencer marketing. That's third parties promoting you for you. Because when you talk about it, you're just promoting yourself. But, ongoing love affair, why Grand Forks is one of our favorite places to visit, the walking tourist. These are the kinds of social media and influencer marketing that you really need. I mean, less beaten paths of America, 10 giant reasons to visit North Dakota. We need more of that, and I think that would make all the difference in the world. And particularly with the Rendezvous region, which really has no staffing. They got part-time through the council, the Red River Regional Council. But it's like we got to get outsiders to talk about this place. And I think everybody should have a local personality. So this is not just, Grand Forks already has it really figured out. But I wanted to show you a little video of a girl. Her name is Gabriella Viola. She lives in Lake Tahoe. She does not work for their CVB. But she creates these little videos. I just wanted to show you this one and take a look at this. Oh, we had sound earlier.
In the winter,
there it is.
besides skiing.
Things to do in Lake Tahoe in the winter besides skiing. Is this?
What's up, guys? I'm Gabriella. For those of you who don't know me, I am an outdoor photographer currently living in beautiful Lake Tahoe. I make videos on mostly Lake Tahoe, so if that's something you're interested in, be sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon if you'd like to be notified when a new video is up. Alright, so with that being said, I'm just going to get straight into the video. Here are 10 awesome things to do in Lake Tahoe in the winter besides skiing. Here we go.
Number 1 is paddleboarding. It might sound surprising, but the winter months bring about glassy conditions due to less people and less boats on the lake, making it an ideal time for paddleboarding and kayaking. Number 2 is Chickadee Ridge. Located off Mount Rose Highway, you don't have to hike very far for these friendly chickadees to fly right up to you. Number 3 is Monkey Rock. The hike to Monkey Rock is beautiful any time of year, but the views are extra special with a little bit of snow. Number 4 is snow sledding. 2 places that I would recommend for sledding that also happen to be free are Schooner Junction and right across the street from Emerald Bay. Number 5 is Emerald Bay. Emerald Bay truly looks like a winter wonderland when it's covered in snow. Added bonus, there's a hill for sledding right across the road. Number 6 is ice skating. South Lake Tahoe has Heavenly Village, and if you're in North Lake Tahoe, you can ice skate at North Star, Squaw Valley, or Tahoe City's Winter Sports Park. Number 7 is Sand Harbor. Sand Harbor is one of the busiest beaches in Lake Tahoe during the summer months. But in the winter, the crowds are gone and you will have this beautiful spot all to yourself. Number 8 is Heavenly Village. Heavenly Village in South Lake Tahoe has something for everyone, including shopping, bars, restaurants, and ice skating. And there's lots of fun, cozy Christmas vibes if you visit during the holidays. Number 9 is Cave Rock. Cave Rock is a short hike with stunning 180-degree views over Lake Tahoe. If you're in South Lake Tahoe, definitely add this spot to your list. Number 10 is Hidden Beach. Just north of Sand Harbor is Hidden Beach. Framed by snow-capped mountains, Hidden Beach has rocky alcoves and beautiful turquoise water. This also happens to be one of my favorite beaches on the East Shore. I wanted to throw in one bonus activity and a great one.
And I'm not even going to continue. She threw in a bonus one that was a day trip away. But what's amazing is she's a new influencer. She did this, and I contacted the Convention Visitors Bureau for Lake Tahoe area. And they said, she has done more for our tourism than what we have done. And they're now having a challenge at Chickadee Ridge. Thousands of people are going there to feed the chickadees. See what I mean? So, because that's something they couldn't do anywhere else. But rather than stay away from Lake Tahoe in the winter, they're embracing it. And those are the kinds of things that are going to be really important, particularly in the rural areas. So now what I'm going to do is tell you what we saw in each of these communities from quality of life. And I'm going to go through all the marketing that you see here. We would love, you need to do photography in these other areas. I think, and if you want good examples, just go to the Grand Forks, visit Grand Forks, and look at those and say, well, how do we do those in Northwood or Thompson or wherever we're at? And so once they arrive, you must deliver on the promise. So there you go. And so I think you need to embrace the winners, not hide from them. Emerado is about 449 population. We could not figure out how 449 people live there. Sure didn't seem like that many. But once again, there's no gateway sign, but we see a bicycle there. It looks like a good first impression. This is how people will judge you. I mean, always put your gateway signs where you make the first best impression. That one there is next to a dollar store. And so always put your gateway signs where you make the first best impression. Rarely is that at the city limits. And so I'm going to fairly quickly go through these. We saw their community center. It looks nice. We got a bench out there. We see the playground. And it looks nice. This is how we judge you. And by the way, when we went out there were all this stuff everywhere. And like this, I put a sign that says coming every winter. You know, coming every winter, we put up an ice rink. That's pretty good size there. You know, but there was no sign, so we don't know whether it's going to work this winter or not. Then we see the school. And so far, and you know what's really interesting is anybody that's looking for a place to live is going to come here and they're judging the book by the cover. I mean, no offense, they're judging the book by the cover. And that looks so far so good. I mean, this is a museum. We could find hardly any museums open anywhere. A lot of them started closing down during COVID, and they're still closed down. So that was a challenge, but it looks really cute. Looks really nice. I mean, the fire department was the nicest building in town. That's not saying much about the retailers. And so that's a challenge. You know, New Beginnings Christian Center looks nice. We've got, I mean, it was garbage day. That's why the can's out there. But we have the flowers with the baskets there. It looks nice. It's freshly painted. Even the little city hall looked great. We had no issues with it. If we looked for houses, I think that's really awesome there. But then you start seeing the flip side of it. This is a great limo there. I don't know that it's moved in how many years, but you know, we start seeing things like that. And then we start to see there's an RV park there, but there's no signs. There's nothing that says who to call. Not even sure if it's even operating. There's a little park right there. And it said this was given by Ralph and Irene there, but the park was overgrown with weeds. I mean, this is that park, and I'm going, I feel bad for the people that donated the park because now there's nobody there. It might be they don't have the tax base or any money to really take care of it, and it was just kind of sad. So here's what happens is, for every 10 things we see good, it only takes one to erase those, one bad one. And so then when you start seeing stuff like this, you start going, you start having second thoughts. Even though we saw nice stuff, we're starting to have second thoughts. This is where there was a bunch of people out in front of the taverns in the middle of the day having a smoke, and one of the guys got up from in there and came out and asked us, what are you photographing? you know, and so those are the challenges. So in Emerado, you know, there's two parts. There's their little downtown, but then they've got a DQ, and their sign is out there. But then it took a turn for the worse. I mean, number one, we see Doc Holliday's Restaurant Saloon. Looks like it's been closed for 10 years. I don't know how long it's been closed. I mean, this is the building. And so you may need, somewhere in these four counties, we need a redevelopment authority. A redevelopment authority is a place that will go in and condemn or buy these properties, get rid of them, and then reinvest them, and then flip them back onto the tax rolls. And so in a town like this, I mean, this is, all of a sudden, the good things we saw just got totally reversed. I love this storage place. Call anytime. No phone number or anything, but you can call anytime. And there's not even a name for the place. And then you got blown out signs. And then right near there is this. I am still, this, I never saw, in these four counties, this is the new definition of a slumlord. And I'm sorry, but I can't believe some of these are literally falling down and people are living in them. So you know what we do? We crossed Emerado off the list. And no offense to Emerado, we judged the book by the cover. But that right there went, no way would I live here. And it's really sad. These are probably good people. But that's how we judge you for quality of life. I mean, went over to Gilby. So there's your population right there. I think the sign needs to be lowered down. It's so high you could never take a selfie in front of it. And it could be, you know, a little bit refreshed. You look at it, see, they put a tree in there so people know there's trees. and so, but once again, we saw one of the few houses for sale was in Gilby. We saw that, looks very nice. And overall, these are our first impressions of what you're seeing. We saw smaller homes, we saw larger homes. I mean, it's just beautiful. And so here we can see the landscaping. I mean, the parks. So you're just seeing our first impression. But if I showed these to other areas, they wouldn't even think North Dakota. I love the fact they took an old school there and turned it into apartments. And there's many schools out in the outlying areas that need to be converted into other uses that are just sitting there empty. But then we'll see things like this, where there's broken out windows or boarded up windows or whatever. And boy, it only takes one or two of these to cancel out all the good things. In Inkster, population 47. Most towns like that, I mean, they could use a gateway sign if they're interested in growing, and maybe a gateway sign like this in Crystal, you know, which is up in Pembina County, is that right? And so, I mean, I thought that was a nice sign. So in Inkster, they do have a playground. We've got, you know, we saw a couple of nice houses like this. I think it's a little overdone with the synthetic flowers. if you catch what I say, but at least they're trying. You know, we did see churches like this that doesn't look like they've been used in decades, which is really sad. We've seen some churches turned into residences, and they look really awesome. You know, but then there's no reader board, so we assume it's not operating. That's another church in the same town. And so then we start seeing things like this. And you know, this might be able to be salvaged. It looks like they added it onto a brick building. I have no idea. But this is how people will judge communities. And so this whole region was founded by homesteaders. You could go and do a practice burn. That might be able to be salvaged for the wood on it. But you might go to fire departments and do practice burns. And then even if you have to eminent domain some of these houses, then erase whatever's there, you know, raise them, and then sell them for $500, $1,000, $5,000 with the stipulation they'll build a new home on them within 36 months, you know, no smaller than 1,400 square feet or whatever. But we saw too many of these. You know, there needs to be abatement ordinances. You know, and so when you start seeing some of these, it starts to cast a cloud over the whole area. Some of these cars could be really cool. They look like they're salvageable. But this is what we saw. I mean, you know, what would be your first impression? You know, I mean, luckily the cars are there to hold up the fence. I mean, you know, you just go, man, and I don't mean to make light of them, but would you live there? Would you visit there? when you drove into town, would you lock your car? See what I mean? That is what you need to understand. And a lot of these are just overgrown. I mean, these things are a safety hazard, probably a public health hazard, and you just see too many of them. And the people from Grand Forks are going, man, I'm glad we live here. You know, but you don't have to go far to find stuff like this. You know, and I didn't take pictures of every one of these. This is not all of them. But this is how we judge communities. And so if we get in Larimore, a little bigger town now, and it looks great. All the photos you see are like this. And so when we got there, I went, man, that polar bear must be like life-size, you know, because of their photos. But then you go there, and there it is. But it's still nice. It's still a very nice gateway. It's got the Veterans Memorial there. I like it when you come into town, there's a cannon pointing at you, you know. You know, a tank, you know. But anyway, and I'm just kidding. I didn't take it that way at all. But they're very proud of their sports, which I think is good. Remember, we're sizing up school. If you remember that top 10 list. So I think they do great, state champions. Now, and they do one-act play, 2016, so I'm glad. I've been in some towns where they had one date in there, it was like 1999. I said, you know, after about 20 years, you might want to take that down. You know, because I think nothing's happened here in 20 years. You know, but I think they take great pride. There's a polar bear right there at the sports field. You know, we went and saw the school. The school looks good. And so in Larimore, we had good first impressions. And so, you know, there's the elementary school. It looks nice, well maintained. And by the way, you have to forgive the roads. That's okay. Remember we said that we want to see positive change. And so we saw a lot of that road. They pretty much tore up the whole downtown. I don't know how they're going to get that finished. We took those like less than 2 weeks ago, and it's like, okay, winter's coming. So I hope they'll get it all done. But they're really aggressive. And we took pictures of pools, and we get it. It's winter. So we understand why it's empty. It's not a negative there. It's the fact that they have one. I think it's great. I mean, if this is used, I would always put every winter. Always invite us back. Every town, every event venue should always invite us back. And I think that's really important. Ambulance rescue looks really good. I mean, the city hall even looks really great for a small town. We've got the senior center there. I mean, we keep going there. We go into there's a library there. There's Larimore Improvement. And I think it's a bar. So I'm not sure if you drink enough, it improves the town. You know, that one I'm still trying to figure out. And so, you know, but houses, once again, we started to get good first impressions. Now, if these photos were on Larimore's website and they were rotating through there, people would have a good first impression. You know, I probably wouldn't put this one, but you can see they're doing, everything they're doing is trying to make the city even better. And I think they're paving the roads. They're putting in gutters and, you know, storm drains and all those kinds of things. I think even the barn is cool. You know, and of course, you know, some of the houses, you don't always have to show the big houses, you know, but even things like that endears you to a community. You know, I just think that's really cute. Now, the local might think, oh my God, you like that? Yeah, it makes me smile. It's like the water tower here. It makes you smile. And when we're there, we can see pathways. There's no signage. I don't know where it goes, how long it is. But once again, it looks nice. So if we keep, now we're getting closer to Grand Forks. Here's Manvel. You know, I create a couple of gateway signs there. Manvel, that's at the intersection of 81 and 29, right? Yeah, and so sometimes it gets kind of overlooked. You know, if we're coming from the north, we come down there, turn left, hop on 29. And yet we went there. We did see community center dinner served Tuesday and Thursday at 11:30. Now, this might be a North Dakota thing. Are you serving dinner at 11:30 in the morning or 11:30 at night? See, and I think it's in the morning. But, you know, and I'm not too sure if they do that, 11:30 to 1. And why it's dinner, we saw the school, looked good. We saw nice homes there. I love all the sheep out grazing there. They must have to, every time they mow the lawn, they must have to move the sheep. And then, you know, even, I mean, this is nice that we had a good first impression. Love that house. I think it's just beautiful what they're doing there. And then, of course, that one we really loved. And right behind it is this. You know, I just went, now, is that awesome or what for kids? See what I mean? this is what we do. We got Ronan Memorial Park there, you know, and if you had all these photos with people in them, what would it say about you? It would just say, wow, this looks nice. This is how, you know, and I know the governor's trying to do Main Street and everything else, but sometimes it's the grassroots stuff you have to do that really make the difference. And that's what we're talking about at that very basic level. You know, the arena, I'd like to see, I don't know whether it's an ice arena, whether it is for equestrian, I don't know what kind of arena, but we also want to show pictures of interiors, more than just buildings. And Niagara, population 51. I mean, that is gorgeous. I don't know if that's wildlife viewing. I don't know if it's stand-up paddleboarding, if it's bird hunting destination. When we drive up, we see that. We just went, wow, this is stunning. Got a cute little post office right there. That's pretty nice. There weren't very many houses there, but they look pretty well taken care of, as you can see there. I thought that was pretty cool, a little Iwo Jima thing right there. And so these are things we saw. So first of all, pretty good first impression, but then we see a church that doesn't look like it's been used in years. Then we start to see these. And these cars are worth something. Those are classics, like 1940s vehicles. And it's too bad they're just rusting away. And we see piles of washing machines. I worked in a place in Nevada called Battle Mountain. It made the cover of the Washington Post, and they called it the worst place in America. And they were so insulted that they did get busy. They hauled away 40 tons of washing machines, refrigerators, and old cars to clean it up. Then they played it up, the worst place in America. You know, they did deodorant tosses. They had fire departments come from all over the state. I mean, they just played with it. And it totally changed the town, but they had to be shamed into it. And, you know, and my point is they were just shaming into it. I'm just telling you, this is how we judge you. And this is how we judge towns when we see stuff like this. You know, and so all of a sudden, you know, and unfortunately, Grand Forks County had the most towns with these kind of problems. And I think the reason is they're so close to Grand Forks that they just said, we're leaving here and we're heading into town. I mean, that'd be my guess. I don't know why there's more here, but this is what we saw. You know, and that one I think somebody lives in. I don't sure how they even get to their front door. But then there's a lot of them that are starting to get so overgrown you can barely see what's back in there. And so, you know, and people love the rural areas. But when we see this, the windows are blown out. I don't even know what they do in the winter. You know, they've got sheets of plastic there you can see in one of those windows. And so now we're into Northwood. Good gateway sign. And right across from the gateway sign is a beautiful house that's well done. So very good first impression. And even behind the gateway sign is nicely done. Public school looks fantastic. I mean, our impression of Northwood was great. Loved the sports fields, the stadiums. You know, and I would feature these with games going on. You know, I'm home of the ice horse, so I imagine there's a Zamboni out there, so I imagine that's an ice rink. It'd be nice to see the interior of it. You know, these are all things we took. You know, there's somebody out mowing the lawn when we were there. But once again, good first impressions. You know, and by the way, I love Little Blessing Daycare. I mean, isn't that an awesome name? I just thought that was really cool. Very well done. You know, medical service, remember that list. All these things are on that list. And so as we go through these, you know, I think the park's beautiful, well-maintained, picnic shelters, you know, the pool. And once again, that's not a negative. I just took it this time of year when it was already emptied out. You know, and I mean, even this with a little trailer there, I thought that was pretty cute what they did. You know, not the highest class, but it was okay. You know, and so we had really good first impressions at Northwood. So it's a great town. And once again, you know, it's pretty close in, and we could see it growing. We could see new residential subdivisions popping up, and you know, how far is Northwood from Grand Forks drive time? 34 miles, so about, you know, half an hour, a little over. And so, but great. And there may be people that work in Grand Forks that live there. But beautiful homes. That one is like ginormous. Big, huge house. But there was every kind of home, every kind of lifestyle. And that's what I think it's important. I love the little free library out there. I think it's just amazing. I just thought it was really nice. I love probably the Norwegian, I guess, or the heritage there. And then there's the one building, this isn't really a negative, but that is like the strangest looking building I think I've ever seen. I don't know if it's a church or was it a church. What is it? That's a house. Because I think it has like Jesus Saves up there or something.
There's a big story behind that.
Oh, is there? Okay. And once again, I don't really have a suggestion for it other than paint. I just thought, well, that's interesting. Very interesting. So off to Reynolds. I have these in alphabetical order, except for Grand Forks. And of course in Reynolds, you know, and I think they deserve a better gateway sign than that. You know, welcome to Reynolds. United but divided by 2 counties. Nobody cares. Have you ever gone anywhere and say, there's the county line, turn around quick? We don't. We don't even care about the river between East Grand Forks and Grand Forks. It's not like Minnesota, huh? You know. Now they may go North Dakota, huh? I don't know. I don't think so. People don't care. And so, you know, but once again, you know, I'd lower the gateway sign down. I'd do a real gateway there. But nice homes. I mean, this is the same thing. You're just seeing the same things over. And I just want to ingrain in people the type of photography that you should use. You know, there it is. Central Valley, you know, 1999. And I'm going, okay, it's been 22 years. Things aren't looking very good for your sports. So sometimes you need to maybe take these down, because it's been too long since you had those issues, or since you had that championship. We did go down to the school, and near the school there's that sign, and it has 1993, 1999, 2017. Now this is a sign you should have up in town, because the other one says we're not winners, and this one says no. Look at them all. You know, 2019. I mean, you know, and it looked great. And I think this is a shared school with a couple of cities. But once again, nice facilities, nice church, you know, nice parks. And I'm just kind of going through these quickly just so you can see it. So if you can imagine, and by the way, in these 4 counties, I took more pictures of playgrounds than I think I've ever taken in my life. And every town has them, and that's a good thing. But even there, they've got, you know, like this Veterans Memorial, I thought was really, really well done. And now we're getting down to Thompson for quality of life. These are all quality of life photos. And so we go there. The problem with Thompson is their gateway sign is parallel to traffic. You never do gateway signs parallel to traffic. We look at perpendicular signs for businesses, for gateways. So if I was them, I would take that sign, because the only way you see it is when you're driving past it. I would go turn that and then double side it. If you can, you know, I would certainly do that. One thing we did is Thompson had the best school spirit of any school we have seen in all 4 counties. I mean, they are so proud of it. But if I had kids that were in sports, I'd go, I want to move them to Thompson. I mean, just home of the Tommies, you know, and look at that. 2019 state champions, 2016, 2018. They've got these everywhere. It's like, yeah. It's I dare you, you know. I mean, and then when you drive in town, that's what you see. You're just like, whoa. So anybody who has kids in sports, I go, Thompson, that's your town. I mean, that's our first impression anyway. And you drive back behind the school, it's growing. So Thompson like, whoa, this place is happening. It's growing. I mean, wow, we want to come here. And an invitation to come back. Anytime something is new is being developed, there should be a sign that says coming soon or opening soon. But right there, Thompson School Edition coming soon. I mean, that is fantastic. And then right next to that is that career building. You know, and it's like, wow, they teach these kids, you know, right in high school about building those future careers. Our impressions were Thompson was outside of Grand Forks itself was like, this place has got it. But look how far away it is from Grand Forks. It's basically a bedroom community. But once again, nice homes, every size, every style. We really wanted that one, but we would have taken this one. I mean, you know, pretty fabulous. You know, and we hadn't been to Thompson before, so I didn't know, but new neighborhoods everywhere. One thing I love about Wisconsin, Minnesota, and North Dakota is that Scandinavian heritage, everything is neat as a pin. You don't find that down south. You don't even find it out west that much, or even in the northeast or the southeast. And so like this, we ran into this in Thompson. I have no idea where it goes. We tried to drive around to the other side to see where it connected. We never did figure it out. But if that's part of a trail system, I'd put signs on it. You know, you'll find lots of these. And we did finally find that, but it was kind of like behind the town. And that's where we found a lot of sports fields and things back there. But look at the fall color here. It's amazing. Even that, the 4-H club back there. And this, without wayfinding sign, we would have never found it. If we weren't doing an assessment, we would have never found this stuff in Thompson, because there's no directional signs back to it. But great sporting facilities, great picnic areas. I mean, can you imagine a photo like that with kids playing in it? And say, this is Thompson, North Dakota, and people go, what? That's North Dakota? That's what you have to do. And finally, Grand Forks. I did your MSA, your service population, and really your service population includes Winnipeg. I mean, they're coming down here, so your service population is quite a bit bigger than even your metropolitan statistical area. So we did come down, and is it Demers or Demers? Demers, okay. Didn't know that. But even on websites, you ought to put Demers pronounced this way. You know what I mean? On a lot of these, we had problems with, before we got here, it was like, I can't wait to get up to the Pembina Gorge. You know, and then we've been corrected, and then we said, no, it's Pembina. And now they say, no, you don't even pronounce the B, it's just Pembina. See what I mean? And so sometimes you have to do that. Pretty powerful first impression. We came off, we said, well, let's go downtown first. And of course we see UND, and I mean, they're right there, you see that? It's just phenomenal. I mean, for us, it was like, whoa. You know, and I love that. I'm going to be showing this to everybody. So just so you know. And for you, you might say, well, I see it so much, it doesn't mean anything. But when you're a visitor here and you see that, it makes you feel welcoming. And my phone's going on. And it makes you feel welcoming, and it makes you smile. That's how simple, and it's one of the simplest, easiest things to do, and I loved it. And then when we left town, you know, you see them with both eyes wide open. And I just thought it was fantastic. Once you get downtown, it's amazing. You could use 1 or 2 reminder signs that says downtown. For that, what is it, 2 miles or 3 miles, whatever it is from the freeway into downtown, what happens is for a visitor, 1 mile feels like 5. So you could say downtown coming up. But once you get there, we loved it. I mean, it was amazing. I was blown away. The Greenway is just world class. I really thought that Grand Forks is really becoming a world-class city. It really is. And I'm basing that basically on your downtown. I mean, Minneapolis, all these other cities don't have anything over Grand Forks, and you have a fraction of the population. Yet you have every single urban amenity possible. I mean, the Greenway, with people on bikes and walking it. We didn't get to walk all of it. We would have loved to. I mean, the maps, the kiosks, everything that you're doing in Grand Forks, we just think, wow, what would I tell them they could improve on? And I have a couple of things, but not much. That right there just absolutely blew us away. That right there. Now, there's no real interpretive sign there, but we could figure out what it was about. But when we're standing there and you're seeing 1997 up there, I still can't even imagine it. And that just blows us away. What is this? Is it a hospital? County. Oh, that's the county building. And no, I mean, I just think it's amazing architecture. It's just like, wow, look at that over there. But everywhere we went, you know, it was just fantastic. And then I could see why Grand Forks is growing. But here's the difference. In almost the other 41 communities, is that right? 40, there's 42 total. 41 communities, getting them to change. Well, why do we need to build a dog park? We never had one before. Grand Forks seems to be the only city in these 4 counties outside of Cavalier. That little town up there is pretty aggressive. Outside capital, you're the only one that's saying maybe we should invest in our future. Now, granted, some of this came out of disasters like the 1997 flood. But it looks like Grand Forks is doing things, say, what can we invest in to improve the quality of life for our citizens? And I wish these other towns would take note, because they don't. They don't seem to get that it's okay to invest in your future. I mean, even college students just here, I mean, I keep going, and they're walking, and they're pointing, and they're looking at stuff. I mean, they were just like, wow. I mean, everywhere we went for quality of life, Grand Forks, I would not hesitate living in Grand Forks for a nanosecond. That was our impression. And I wish I could say that. For some of the smaller communities, I think they're fantastic. Now these are all over the place. What are they? Are they flood control? Are they pump houses? What are they?
Lift stations.
Lift stations. Oh, so they lift the gates so that when there's a flood? No, what's a lift gate?
It lifts either storm water or sewage.
Okay, so that's what it is.
Not real glamorous, but attractive.
No, but the way these are built, they fit the neighborhood and they're gorgeous. I think just have an interpretive sign say, here's a lift station and here's how it's used. This is what it's used for. Because at first I took that and said, what a pretty house. And I saw it was a big garage door and it's like, oh, wait a second here. And there's like every few blocks and they're beautiful. But we didn't know what they're for. And I thought that would be part of the story. I mean, even these are beautiful. You know, all these, the flood fencing, whatever you call it. But it's, I mean, even that was like, wow. Breakwaters, what do you call those? Breakwater walls? Flood wall. You know, but Lincoln Park, one of my 5 favorite things in Grand Forks. Lincoln Park is just astounding. I mean, just walking around it, even just driving around it, and I understand, I've heard about the flood and what happened there, but once again, if you had people in these photographs and you had them out there, I mean, Julie already has most of these with people in them and activities in them, but even for quality of life, I mean, look at that. It's just stunning. Sertoma Park, we found it. I mean, you know, we did find a King's Walk, the golf course down there. I mean, and then all the sports fields out there, that's the golf course there, but then all the sports fields, they were packed. They were packed. And then you drive out there and you start seeing all of this stuff. This is all about quality of life. Now, there's still a lot of reasons why people would live 45 minutes away because they like the rural areas and everything, but all the amenities are here. You know, I mean, it just went on and on. I mean, the Park District, I mean, I just went, wow, look at that. Even the main office is pretty cool. When we get downtown, I mean, we'd love to see a reader board there that says Fire Hall Theater, here's upcoming events. I don't know if they do plays there or what they do, but it'd be nice if there was a sign that invited us back. University District, I thought was phenomenal. Just beautiful. You know, and so for quality of life, these are what we're seeing. These are images. This is what we saw. And right there, we're heading to the red pepper. Yeah, those famous grinders. Thank you, Julie. We did eat some of those.
Extra white sauce?
Did we what?
Get extra white sauce?
No. Is it? Oh, we should have got extra. See? But no, we still have room on that gift card.
When she orders her grinder with extra white sauce, she tells them you cannot put on too much white sauce.
Oh, really? Okay, we'll remember that. But even this is not a negative. It shows change, it shows growth, it shows improvement. And it's got coming soon. It's got the sign there. So these are, and this is just, I mean, not even professionals have hockey like this. I mean, that is just, these are the things that make Grand Forks a world-class city. And that's why I kind of hesitant to do this because it has nothing in common with the Emerado. You know what I mean? But it just shows you from that. We did go to the Alerus Center, and Siri the whole time says Alerus. So I had to retrain my brain to ignore what my navigation system is telling us. And Julie did give us tickets to the UND and North Dakota State game, which was a great game, by the way. And I love the stadium. I think it was just great. Of course, I came from University of Washington, where we have 45,000 students, but I actually liked this better. It was more fun. Unfortunately, UND lost the game, but you know what? State beat, was it Valparaiso U, like 69-0. So at least this was like a 6-point game. It was like, whew, at least they kept it close. And of course, we had to go to the Red Pepper, which we did. And it's amazing. The line will be out the door and down the sidewalk, yet it's fast. I mean, they had like 2 gals in there. I never saw people making tacos and grinders so fast in my life. And it was good. It's an institution. And so we really appreciate that. That was fun. And that lets you meld with locals. You know, it wasn't a chain. It was something that's locals, and we loved it. So now, if we take another look at these communities about tourism, not every one of them fits into tourism, but a lot of these places have RV parks. And there's no signs. There's no signs that say who to call, whether you can go there. And so one of our suggestions is for these towns to actually start promoting this. And RVing, by the way, is growing like you can't believe. There are 2 million people living in them full time in just the United States. And 1 million of those are working out of them. The average age of a person buying an RVer is not baby boomers, 38. There are millennials, 38 years old, they're buying they say, I can go buy a trailer for $25,000 and I have a house. I can take it wherever I want, work wherever I want. And everywhere we've been this year on the road for 7 months, we have seen so many people with kids in these, and they're homeschooling them. And they get online, they're doing classes online. I've been shocked by it. As a matter of fact, last year they sold 500,000 new RV units. This year, 600,000. I mean, it's growing like you can't believe. And they want the rural areas. And so that's good news. But, you know, like there's Matachek Dam, there's no photos there, Michigan City Park. I mean, we kept trying to figure out, they're not listed. And Campendium is like TripAdvisor, but for the RV crowd. And so I think that's a great thing that they could do. Larimore. When Larimore, we saw Visitor Information Center. I think it's right on 2, isn't it? And so we went to Larimore. We saw the Visitor Information Center. It was open, public restrooms, no local information. None. It was all just state maps. That's it. I mean, there was another little, you know, out here even, there was a couple little menus from Larimore, but that was it. It really, there was nothing there to sell us, you know, on why we should go to the area. I mean, I was just shocked that there was no local visitor information. And so that was kind of surprising. And nothing wrong with the state for having all their guides there, but I just kept going, man, some of that should be dedicated to this. And then Turtle River State Park, we did see. And who's from Turtle River? Okay, and who's your counterpart up? Who's your counterpart up there at Icelandic? Mike. And you're Larry? Yep. Okay. So he says, give Larry hell. So just so you know, I mean, it's friendly, by the way, for everybody else. Yeah, okay. Yeah, got some good, but they're both the state parks are awesome. You know, I did see this interpretive signage. You know, we do see it'd be good if there's an interpretive sign that just says, you'll see waterfowl, or what do we see here? You know, because we see a viewing area there. Very nice. Very nice entrance to the park. There's and I think it's great that you show that you have Wi-Fi there. You know, it'd be nice to know where it was. I couldn't get it to work, and so we couldn't get the Wi-Fi to work. We didn't even know what to look for. So it'd be good if there was that there. Now, there was one thing that was a little bit like, whoa, we better pay our $7 or we're going to get nailed. And so I'm not too sure, but it's like, okay, you better pay or else. Some of those might be traffic counters and other things, I'm sure. But this is a really great interpretive center. It wasn't open when we were there. A couple times we were there, it was never open. And there's no hours of when or if it will ever be open. And so these are just like, you know, let us know, invite us back. And so, but it looks great. Now, one thing is, and this is the state. We had this problem at Iceland. At every state facility, getting the QR code to work is So state parks in Bismarck needs to figure that out. If you can get the QR code, it'll just say, now pick your park. It won't go to the park you're actually in. So then you have to go through the whole state park website to figure out how to get to Turtle River and then do that. And so for us, we ended up just doing it the old-fashioned way. We just said, forget this is not working. It was much quicker to do it by hand. And then right there it says closed, but there's no hours, there's no like on weekends and by the way, for everybody here, the days of Memorial Day to Labor Day ended 30 years ago. Baby boomers who spend the most on tourism, their peak months for travel are April, May, September, and October. And so we have to get out, and I'm not sure what this is. This could be COVID, it could be a number of things. But it would be nice if there was an invitation to come back. And it would be nice if there was more. Most of these are kind of empty. I'm going, man, we need to put more local stuff in there. And that's up to locals. I mean, you have to go to Larry and say, hey, Larry, can we put our brochure for Rendezvous Region or whatever's there? But there wasn't very much there. I thought, man, that could be better used. One thing I loved was these maps. And these maps are great because it tells you the distance, what you'll see, all the trails and everything. I thought this map was just really well done. On the back side of it, we've got must see and do. I thought that was excellent. More to explore. Visiting in the winter. Look at that. North Dakota is actually open in the winter. You don't need to complain about it anymore. And then visitor tips is up there so everyone can enjoy their visit. I just thought this was very well done. Really great. And first class. And by the way, I even told Mike up there that you had better these buildings. Yeah, so that's okay. I had your back. Yeah, he's been told. I think that is just absolutely beautiful. These are fantastic. I saw these lodges, or I saw these picnic shelters, and at first I thought I couldn't remember where they were. I said, "Is that you?" I saw. He goes, "No, those are Larry's." But they're just gorgeous. I just thought, it's fantastic. So anyway, we really enjoyed the city park. We did come into town there and see the firemen out there and the museum. And once again, wouldn't it be great if all these little museums were like, they decide we're going to be open every Saturday from 10 to 3 so that you could do a history trail out here through these rural communities. I think it would be a cool thing. And that's something even Grand Forks could promote. I did like the fact that the friendly merchants in Larimore welcome you. And I thought that was great. That's the first time I've seen out at a park, this is at Larimore Dam, that they're actually inviting you to come into their downtown. They're the only town that did that. So we went there, Upper Turtle River, Watershed Project, saw that. Once again, electric motors only, which I thought, now this would be good fishing. And I don't know what this is well known for. Every one of these lakes, by the way, this is something that you could tell everybody in the area, is if you watch the news, and most of the news I've been watching is coming from Fargo, and they always talk about Devil's Lake and Devil's Lake area. They really never, and they'll mention Grand Forks, of course, but never north of Grand Forks. And I'm going, why is it Devil's Lake and everything else is a dam? A dam is an earthen structure to hold back water, or a concrete structure to hold back water. Why? Nobody cares about dams. So why isn't it Larimore? Why isn't it Lake Larimore or Lake Matachek or Lake anything? Why do we always call everything a dam and expect it to be an attraction? And I don't understand that. I hope you can change that. Start marketing all these little lakes as lakes. Because I don't care about a dam. As a matter of fact, when we first remember, we're from out west. We're going, whoa, there's a dam here. It must be like Grand Coulee, right? Big, huge, big. Yeah, and then we go, well, that's it? And that's what they're marketing? And so that was kind of sad, but very nice park there. And so, you have tremendous assets. Even this arboretum there is fantastic. I would have liked to have seen a wrought iron fence over a chain link fence, and instead of razor wire. Is there a real problem here?
Deer.
There is?
Deer fence.
Oh, it's a deer fence. Okay. Didn't know that. Just like, oh, this must be unsafe. Great picnic shelters, just fantastic. You know, one thing I noticed about this at Stump Lake and a lot of places we went, there were these RV parks, but they're 100% full of full-timers, or what look like full-timers. You know, they have decks built out there. I thought, what about people that are coming in for a first time? We're spending more money than a local who has their RV parked out there full-time. I know it's revenues, but I thought, man, these should always have some, like 1/3 of them set aside for no more than 14 days so that you recirculate your people, you know, which are going to spend more money than these people. They go shopping, they bring everything with them. By the way, more and more rigs are, so we're going to talk about RVs just for a second, are self-contained. So for instance, we have 2,300 watts of solar and 1,000 hours. We could run air conditioning and everything all day long. As long as we have sun, we're good. So beyond that, the top priority is electricity. So if we have hookups, number one is electricity, 30 amp, 50 amp. So 30 amp for smaller rigs, 50 amp for bigger rigs. Then the next priority is water. But in some places, we don't mind getting water when we come into the park, fill up our tanks with fresh water. You know, so that's why it's not a number one priority. You don't have to have water at every site as long as it's available for us. Then the third priority is a dump station. And a lot of times, if we don't have sewer, and the problem is with sewers, and why a lot of state parks don't have them, is sewers always gravity fed. Well, that doesn't work very well, you know, and then you have to have pump stations and everything. So in most of the state parks we've stayed in, which we've stayed in probably 25 states, they have a pump station on your way out, or a dump station on your way out. And so that's not a really high priority. The challenge is there's a lot of new RVers out there and they don't have a clue what they're doing and they just try to dump stuff at their campsite and it's like, I mean, you probably are dealing with the new ones. They don't have any clue how to back in a rig. And as a matter of fact, the Bureau of Land Management has had such a problem with all the new RVers, they've actually shut them down for public access. So us that are seasoned RVers are out there trying to educate people. With most RVers, we just follow the sun. Matter of fact, we live in Phoenix where North Dakota goes in the winter. So, and we see it, spring training and everything, you know, and so we do see that. But yeah, that is a priority. And anybody that has RVs understands that having exposed pipes in the winter is not really a good thing in North Dakota or in any of these Midwest states or even out west in the mountains. So, yeah. And so anyway, with this one, I just wanted to see more of that. You know, but you can see these people look like they've lived there for the last 15 years. You know, and I know it's monthly revenue, but I also believe if you want tourism, you need to have some of these spaces open for rotating visitors. We did see the Larimore golf course. It looks really nice. But one thing we had a challenge with every single golf course, is this golf course open for public play? Anybody know? There's no signs. Do you have 9 holes, 18 holes? Do you have a pro shop? Do you have food? Do you have anything? No signs at any golf course, not even here in Grand Forks. No signs. There's nothing that says we're open for public play or anything. All there is right there. Beer consumed must be purchased in the club. So we know they sell beer, but that's it. And so that's something they could do. Moving on to Manvel, really quick about tourism. You know, here we have a museum. There's no hours. We don't know what the focus is. The paint's falling off the building. So these are things that we're really challenged with. You know, they've got little horseshoe pits there, but we couldn't find any horseshoes anywhere and didn't know where you would go borrow some, even if you were going to play horseshoes there. And then, of course, Niagara has this cute little church right here, or a schoolhouse right here, I mean, but no interpretive sign. This is right near it, no information. Now, here's one thing particularly for the rural areas. The number one rule of tourism is getting people to stop. If you can get them to spend 2 hours spending doubles, 2 hours, because they'll be close to a meal. Let's get something to eat. Let's get something to drink. Let's stop in that shop. So that's the goal. And then, of course, the long-term goal is to get them to spend the night. But that's something they could do. I mean, Stunning Lake. Is that a tourism asset? I mean, could I go kayaking there, stand-up paddleboarding there? What's its claim to fame? Is it fishing? Is it hunting? What is it? And so we saw lots of these, and they should be leveraged. Northwood also has an RV park, but there's no signs that tell you where to call. you know, how you reserve, when it's open, when it's closed, not listed on any RV sites. And so we saw just a ton of this. We also saw this one here, but it's more like a gravel parking lot. And RVers, we're looking for something a little more than just gravel and dust. So Grand Forks, tourism. And of course, I mean, there you go, right there. Empire Arts, I love that place. I mean, just absolutely. Somebody here is from Empire, right? Okay, fantastic. I think that's fantastic. I love the fact. By the way, for everybody else, when we talked about what those millennials want, and one of those things, one thing that they want that's not really apparent in there, but it's part of community, is cultural depth. That's why they tend to gravitate towards the urban areas. We want some cultural depth. And that's what that provides. I thought that was first class, well done, you know, just awesome. We followed that, you know, we followed the greenway all the way around, and I kept going. I don't know if the people like people walking around their district, but that's what we did. We just parked our vehicle, we just walked through here, and it was really nice. It was just really nice, really pleasant. Squirrels everywhere, but just once again, just amazing. I actually thought this could be an amazing tourist attraction. I don't know that's something you want to promote because the neighbors might not appreciate that, but I just thought it was fantastic. Lincoln Court, I mean the tennis courts, everything we saw was really well maintained. But even here, I have no idea. Obviously they have retail in there. But beyond that, is it open for public play? Is it 9 holes, 18? I have a feeling it's 18. It might even be more than that. I don't know. No information. So there should be a sign there other than how to get to it. But there's no real information anywhere. And if it's private, they may say, well, it's a private club. That's why there's no signs. Is it, or is it public? It is public. How would we know? So add sign there. We did see Grand Forks, the Mira, is that how you pronounce it? Myra. The Myra Museum, and once again, it was closed. No signs saying when or if it's ever going to be open. I love that. I thought that was awesome there. I mean, it has all these buildings there. We can see that there's not even signs that say, here's what we're doing. We're restoring this house. There was no real interpretive signs. There is a little interpretive sign right there, but really there's just no information. So we're sitting there going, this is so gorgeous, and we're walking around. All the doors are locked. Nothing's open. No signs that tell us when it's open. This is open because the construction workers are going in there. But once again, you know, a great asset, but no clue. Nothing to invite us back. And then finally, if I look at our last one, this is commerce, talking about commerce now. Every town needs an anchor tenant. And just to show what an anchor tenant is, we'll go over to Utah to a little teeny town called Parowan. That's Salt Lake. There's Las Vegas. They're near Cedar City. And in this little town, there's Katie Lister owns this Parowan Cafe. She is known for her cinnamon rolls. People will drive, people going down I-15 will stop there just for her cinnamon rolls. So all these little towns, if we're going to send people from Fargo through Grand Forks all the way up to Pembina County or the Gorge up there or Frostfire or anything, how do we get them to stop in one of your towns to pick up something? What is your anchor tenant? So Katie Lister got together with locals to make sure that her cinnamon rolls were the very best. Then they got somebody from KSL TV in Salt Lake City to come down there, and on the air he said, these are the best cinnamon rolls in the West. And we got it, third-party endorsement, anchor tenant for this little town. Then the Mexican restaurant, which is right there, they got a pastry chef that came in, and they are selling these cinnamon apple chimichangas. See what it means? It's all about cinnamon. And there they go, finding Parowan sweet spot. This is a town of 3,000 people. So then, once they got these cinnamon rolls, they got third-party endorsements, they put these out on the freeway. They thought if they could get 10 cars a day to stop, and if each one of those spent $20, you know, for cinnamon rolls, coffee, breakfast, whatever else, that would be $6,000 a month. Well, you know what happened? They had 1,500 cars a day stopping, and they're running out of cinnamon rolls by 8 in the morning. And so, and they end up getting about, I think it was like $80,000 a month in increased spending just because of cinnamon rolls. And so, maybe you have a great dessert dish at a local eatery. Maybe you have awesome barbecue at a local pub out here. A lake known for its walleye fishing. I mean, we need to know what you have in all these little towns that is an anchor tenant. For instance, if I'm coming here at the University of North Dakota, red pepper might be one of those anchor tenants. It's right there. It's close to the campus, close to everything that's happening. It might be Widmer's Chocolates on 3rd, right in downtown. And I mean, everybody needs an anchor tenant. And so in Gilby, I don't know what that is, but I think this is what I love about this area. Look at that. I don't know if those guys park the trucks and they go out there with a tape measure to make sure they're exactly at the same angle, same distance apart. Everything is neat as a pin. So in Gilby, now we're talking about our downtowns, a great mural, a nice welcome sign. But then we've got Gilby Community Center, looks decent. But one thing we ran into in the rural areas is there's no beautification of any kind hardly anywhere. And so everything looks kind of stark and bare. Now, they did put a couple little things right there. They put a little planters there. And we got 7 up there. I don't even know what the business is. I mean, could you tell? And so that's the challenge. And this is the challenge we had everywhere. Is it ever open? It says closed. We're there in the middle of the day, but there's no hours, there's no anything. So they're not doing a very good job inviting us back. I mean, Cliff's Restaurant, great signage, nice beautification. How about some color? One thing that drives me crazy, and there's even this in Grand Forks, why is everything beige, brown, and gray? You make your winters even more drab. And just in downtown Grand Forks, look at the parking garage. It's just 1970s gray aggregate, or brown, I should say. But anyway, I just came, add some color, add some hours. I don't even know if Cliff's is ever open. And this was a challenge we had everywhere we went. I mean, look at the chili feed, Saturday, 3 to 6. I went, yes, a place that finally invited us back. In a small town, this could be live workspace. I don't know what it is. Inkster. And we have places like this, Saloon of the Iron Horse Saloon. It's got benches there. It's got a little chair on the side. Doors are locked. No hours posted. Don't know whether it's an anchor tenant or not. And then you see buildings like this. This could be a redevelopment authority. Maybe we need to take it down. These are all in the commercial core we're looking at now. These are things, this is your downtown. And in these little tiny communities, these should just be raised. Now, that's a cool building. I thought that could be artist live workspace. There was a bus there, like a tour bus. I don't know where they were or what's in there. But I never did find the people, but the bus was there. So, Larimore. Here we go. I think that's pretty cute what they did with the cowgirls there on the east side of it. There's the Larimore employment, and I just didn't know. It's, by the way, we had to learn what on and off sale was. We figured it out, but only in North Dakota would I have to go figure that out because every town has an on and off sale, and so we actually had to look that up. But once again, Larimore Improvement, come in and drink. I think that is a bar. I think the little Edna Rawlson Library, I thought that was really cute. Avalon Theater, but once again, is it ever open? Is it out of business? And what happens is we don't know what's open and closed. I don't know how many times we walked up to doors to find them locked in the middle of the day in all these towns over several weeks. Up here, it looks like they're working on a rooftop bar. I think that's going to be awesome. But once again, right now, there's no sign or anything. Maybe they took it down because of that. One of our favorite places, here's an anchor tenant for Larimore, is this, DB's The Station. This is a little restaurant, but number one, they have good signage. Number two, it's all themed for firefighters, first responders. It's all things. They've got the helmets up there. They've got even storm grates and stuff from different cities. They got fire department. Everything's there. And even in the back, they've got this big wall. You can just go up there and chalkboard on the wall. And what really endeared us to this place is the lady that was, she was the cashier. She waited all the tables. She did everything but cook. But when you would order, number one, she'd say, you want to know what you should order? Which usually you don't get help. It's like, pick something. You know, and then when she comes out of the kitchen, she goes, da, 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 da. And then she comes down and puts it in front of you. I mean, she makes a production out of it. Because of that, we want to eat there all the time, whenever we're through the area. But that's what Anchor Tenant's about. And I think they do a great job. Sorry, that photo was out of focus. And they even have an outdoor dining area next door. You know, but in a lot of places, we have no idea. Here's another one in a downtown that could be taken out. Here, these might be live workspaces. You know, that's what you need to do in some of these towns. It's just sell them and let them be residential. Now here it says Lux Beauty, but there's no hours. You know, it was locked. You know, and so that brings us to beautification. And here's a really important statistic, because I even think downtown Grand Forks could use some beautification. So, women account for 80% of all consumer spending. I'm waiting. Usually there's a guy in the audience that pipes up and says, that's all? But it's absolutely a true fact. Look at this next photo, which was not staged. What do you see? What do you see? And I have two words for you. Think benches. Always at the facade facing out, never the street facing in, never the street facing each other. Always at the facade. There's Jane, who's right back there, and being the model for that. That was in Cedar City, Eufaula, Oklahoma. I mean, and here's what women want. They want to feel safe. That's number one. We want it well lit. We want it full of life. We want to see people. And that's really a priority. But in downtowns, why do you think we do this at home? It makes our home feel welcoming. It's the same with retail. Think benches. In this town of Fredericksburg, Texas, they did a fundraising all together, and they just went door to door. They raised about $3,500. They went out to a wholesale nursery in the fall and said, we'll take all the pots you got. Even if they have a hairline crack or a chip, we're just going to line them down the street. We believe cities should do curbside, and downtown associations should do facade side beautification. So it's a public-private partnership. They lined these down the street, and then they fill them full of, they had high schoolers and kids that were raising money, football, hockey, cheerleaders, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and they had them put the rock in their landscape fabric, fill them full of soil, and then the next spring, and in the winter, they just put winter decorations and pinwheels, and then the next spring they planted them. I mean, that looks great. That is curb appeal. And look at this statistic, 70% of first-time sales. We all travel. Have you ever said these words? That looks like a nice place to eat. That's how we judge places. Then we'll go to TripAdvisor and make sure we made the right decision. But look at this in Neenah, Wisconsin. Notice the street trees right down here. Those look really great. That's the city side. Here's the merchant side, Downtown Association. Before, after, sales went up 35% just doing that. That's what's missing even in downtown Grand Forks. Now, Grand Forks downtown is under construction. You know, I mean, most of it like Third and some of that. But once again, that's the power of beautification. You know, and I said, man, could this be a funding option for some of these redevelopments? Fantastic buildings here. I mean, live workspaces, condos, artist lofts. Could be fantastic in some of these towns. Love seeing some of the color like here. At least we got 3 colors. You know, it's kind of a off cream color. But look at down here. They did this. I mean, what's interesting is though, but we have this little board right here. Nothing on it on that side. It is on the other side. They must have ran out of letters. But at least they've done some things that tells us they're in business. It's obvious they're in business. But now, Larimore Flour, Gift, and Coffee. You can't really read that unless you're standing in front of the store. But see up there? So I took the liberty in 5 minutes and said, why don't they do that? Yellow always pulls the eye. So going from this to that would like, whoa, get your attention. And I just did that in 5 minutes, but or less. But then once again, I would use both sides of that little reader board. But at least they had the right idea, one of the few that did. You know, but here, once again, out of the woods, I don't know what that is. I have no idea whether it's in business. There's the Avalon Theater. We couldn't tell who's in business, who's not. And then once again, you know, we assumed that this was long gone out of business. I don't know, maybe it is open, but you can't tell. The doors were locked. You know, once again, here, you know, it says dining room and bowling. So there must be a bowling alley there, but no curb appeal. And so even for all these little communities, if you want people in Grand Forks to go out there, so you're seeing all the commercial areas out in these rural areas. Have you seen anything that you said, I want to go out there yet? And that's what you have to do. And even things like this, Z, I mean, is this a gym? Is it a yoga studio? What is it? I like the logo and everything, but I don't know what it is. Always promote what it is you're selling before the name of the business. Look at that. That's one of the nicest American Legions I've ever seen. Too bad retailers don't get it. And so, you know, as we go through all these, you know, this is says whatever saloon on and off sale closed. So we assume that means permanently. I mean, it's big letters on a chalkboard. Who knew? But here's an anchor tenant. I love that. You know, there it is. I love that little gate. Look at that place. Isn't that cute? It used to be a church. I just think her displays down here, displays up near the door. It was open when we were there. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, we want to promote these businesses specifically. Now, one thing I hear, you can't use lodging tax. You can't use tax money to promote private business. Wrong. Can you imagine Orlando? We have 170 attractions, but we can't mention any of them by name because they're all privately owned. Or Napa Valley, you've got to promote your anchor tenants. Niagara, garage. It's hard to figure out. But I mean, I don't know what it is, but these need to be removed. And these are all, I'm just showing you commercial areas now. We saw the residential, but then you start seeing all of these things. You got to get rid of this stuff. You just have, somebody has to be heavy-handed, whether we're condemnation or purchasing these outright. I mean, most of these are probably not even up to code anyway. You know, that car was there and I'm going, somebody live there? Maybe they do. Northwood, commercial area. We saw this, we found this by accident. It's kind of back in a residential area and there's no wayfinding, but it looks really great. I mean, I think they were closed. Do they close for the season? No, they are open. No hours, no, it was all locked up when we were there. But great potential, I thought, in this block there, just looks really great. Once again, I wish there was more color. You know, I'm just so tired of everything being, you know, brown, gray, and beige. I mean, this looks very nice, but I just thought, for all the towns, just add a little more color, more life. You know, but I think overall it looks really great. I think I love this right here, this little sidewalk cafe dining right there with the little arbor there, or trellis. I think it just looks really great. And you can tell it's open. It doesn't have its hours posted, but you can tell they're in business. I think overall it looks really great. There it is from the side. And I love it. It says TCB wide. Isn't that like a yogurt place? Is that really there? You know? And so anyway, I think overall, love the color right here where you could see it happening. You know, I just think you could use more curb appeal at the street level. And I always say you got to soften your facades with curb appeal. And they're doing the table and chairs. I think it's excellent. You know, they got their lights up. And I mean, overall, I think they did a great job. That's awesome, American Legion. And so, by the way, winter is no excuse for lack of beautification. You know, I hear that all the time in North Dakota. I don't hear it in Ontario, and they have the same kind of winters. But once again, there's really no curb appeal here. I don't know if I don't even know what the gleaner is. What is it? Oh, it's a newspaper. Okay. Well, in that case, nothing for visitors anyway. The next one, I think, is some kind of a bar. Don't know if that's still in business. Is it? It is. But it's not obvious. It needs to be obvious. I love that. I think that's really cool. It was a depot, or still is a depot. It's a museum, or it's going to be a museum? Perfect. Great. Awesome building. Inside showroom, I mean, I think they sell home accidents. I don't know if it's a car dealership. Is this in business? It's not in that building. Okay. So once again, it's just like, and that's just flat out gorgeous. I just think that's really cool. And so anyway, really good first impressions. Lumber company, is it there? Is it still in business? But once again, notice on most of these, I mean, I see a little flower pot hidden right around the corner right there. But when we see flowers, when we see beautification, it makes it obvious. Because otherwise we don't know. Because it's kind of hit and miss. But that's, I mean, just really great architecture. If we go to Reynolds, when we see buildings like this, what is that? Anybody know? What would you guess?
Cafe.
You think it's a cafe? Yeah, we walked up to doors, but it does say cafe up there. That's where you're getting it from. But it does say up there cafe, but down here it says beehive, but no signs, doors are locked, no clue. And so this is what happens, you know, beautiful buildings like that. I think that's really cool. And then if we go down to Thompson, Thompson doesn't have a whole lot of retail. Brewski's Bar and Grill, you know, and I assumed it was open because there was cars parked out front. And then in Grand Forks. The very first thing I saw made me really, really jealous, and I'm still really jealous. Yep. This is what happens when you work in tourism too long, by the way. You know. I thought that was just really cool. Too, they wrote Sid on it, you know, which is too bad. But I thought that was just really cool. I thought that was awesome. I just loved it. I wasn't the only person getting selfies and stuff taken there at that. But this kind of stuff shows you that you have cultural depth. I mean, 3rd Street was closed when they were there. I don't think they're working on the sidewalks and all that. So that was great. So we did walk down there. I kept thinking, in 10 years, you know what? That'll be closed permanently. I mean, that's the way we're moving in cities everywhere. Downtowns are about people, not cars. And you know, but I just kept thinking down the road, I could just see that being, you know, more, you know, outdoor cafes and dining. We ate lunch at Ely's Ivy, and it was fantastic. I mean, right on 3rd there, and just really, I mean, just world class. But when we go down the sidewalks, we see this right here. And by the way, the mixed metals, you know, they're doing the lights downtown. What a fantastic world class. We went in there and one of the guys was giving us a tour of how they did that and how they had to bid to do the ones downtown. And I'm so glad you found somebody local to do it. Incredible shop, just amazing shop. And they even have things in there where they use the old barnwood. I kept seeing all these old hotels and old things everywhere. I'm going, man, these guys should go out there and start buying some of these old buildings in Inkster and taking the wood out to put in these tables and stuff they make. But that, I mean, just world class. We could spend all day just on that narrow street between Widman's, you know, down to Demers. And so, you know, love the lights. And we even came back, we came down to see, we had to come down and see James Bond, you know. I've seen every James Bond movie in a theater. Unfortunately, we went over to Minnesota to do it. We were in East Grand Forks over there. But I think really overall fantastic job, but I would love to see the facades softened with something. Some benches, some pots, some flowers. And so it just doesn't have much, it's just hardscape to hardscape. And that would be really nice. And by the way, you also need blade signs. Like right there at RH, there's a blade sign, but a lot of these places, there's no blade signs. And we need blade signs that are perpendicular. When we're driving down the street or walking down the street, give me a reason to walk down there. And so they've got the one right there. But once again, no blade signs. Why should I keep walking down that street? I don't see anything there. And so, and this applies to everybody, not just Grand Forks. Right here, I can see one down there, you know, but even between now and, we have to put a little sandwich board out there because we don't have a blade sign. And so those are the little things that even in Grand Forks you can do. I would never, ever have chairs against the curb. They should be this way. They should always be, and I know it's kind of more steep there and not level, but who wants to sit next to traffic? And I would always move them in the other way. I always air it on the way so we're not listening to noise, even if there's cars parked there. So that's one thing. I'm all about love sidewalk dining. But I just thought that I wouldn't put those out there. I'd put them up against the facade, and then hopefully there's ADA access around them. And also you don't have, you know, wait staff tripping over pedestrians. I thought that was excellent. Just really well done. And so overall, you can just see how we'd love to just see these all activated. And I have a feeling a lot of this is brand new. Is it? Yeah, that's what I thought. Looks like all of downtown is moving that way. Love it. Downtown is about people, not cars. And just ingrain that in people. By the way, if anybody ever gives you a bad time about parking, do they? Here's what you tell them. If some business say, you take away the parking, you're gonna kill my business, here's your response. Are you telling me your business isn't worth walking 2 blocks for? It shuts them up like this. I'll give you a statistic, Walmart. The average shopper at Walmart parks 320 feet away from the front door. Average. Half of them are walking more, 320 feet from the front door. Yet they have no problem walking 320 feet and all the way to the back of a Walmart to buy a Blu-ray or a DVD. They just walk 2 blocks. It just has to be worth the walk. So when I hear these parking arguments, I go, don't give in. Because downtown is about people. And that is a big shift in the United States. So I'm glad to see wider sidewalks. You can program with activities. Is Harry's Steakhouse still in business? It just opened because I saw nothing in the menu board. Nothing there. And so they're worried. It might be there now. I did this a couple weeks ago. Yeah. It looks great. It looks fantastic. I just thought, wow, is it still there? I would love to see bike rounds closer to the Greenway. And there might be some. I think there is on one side, but maybe not the other. And anyway, I just thought, well, that's great. They've got those. I think that's cool. We read these. I think the kiosks are fantastic. I mean, this part of Third over there, I think it's going to be cool. I think that could be a whole part of an entertainment district or something. I think what you're doing is fantastic. You know, and this brings me to probably one of the reasons that North Dakota has such a cloud over it. You have one of the lowest state tourism budgets in the country. You're being outspent 3 times by Montana. You're being outspent by Minnesota like 10 times. You're being outspent by South Dakota is 3 times the budget. When the rest of the country hears about North Dakota, it's because you're on the news because we have our 27th disaster in 27th year. See what I mean? And so North Dakota has this because the state does not invest in promoting it. So Grand Forks has to promote themselves, Fargo, everybody has to promote themselves. And so you don't know. I think these are incredible stories. And you know, if it was me, I would get rid of the state slogan of be legendary because I could be legendary in all 50 states. But I think if there was anything this state stood for, it's resiliency. I mean, if there was ever a resiliency, I kept going, we ought to do something that's more about the people of North Dakota than just like be legendary. And that's a totally different subject. Sorry I even went there. That'll probably get me in trouble now. I will no longer be the governor's best friend. But I just think that that's what I love about North Dakota is what you've been through and how resilient you are. And we endure ourselves to people that go through this. So rather than apologize about your winters and how bad it is, you can say, but you know what? We may have harsh winters, but we embrace it. It's like, yeah. You know, I love the public art. That is so cool. Once again, it gives you cultural depth. The architecture downtown is absolutely fantastic. But once again, No, I can't. I would keep going, okay, let's paint that level yellow, blue, red, what? Just do anything so it doesn't look like 1974 aggregate. And then finally, we're here now. We're getting close to the river, and it's Town Square. Is that right? Town Square. I love this, but there's no activity on it. You don't need events, you need activities, and that's going to take me to what applies to all these other communities like Thompson and Northwood and all these other communities is, number one, there should be a reader board somewhere that says, here's what's coming for the next 6 months. Invite us back. There's nothing there that invites us back. I don't know why there isn't vendors in there anytime. That they just say, you want to set up a booth there? And I don't know if there's a cost per day. You don't have to wait for a farmer's market. I think people could do stuff there year round. I mean, I just saw an empty space, and we've been here multiple times and there was never anything happening on it and no invitation to come back. Yet it's what we want every town to do. And so, you know, first class, walkable downtown, we just loved it. And so with that, and I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because I'm running out of time here, but this is about how to develop a plaza, but what's missing in most cities is that programming. One thing I love about Grafton is their parks and recreation programs their spaces. I mean, they had, you know, corn mazes, they had all kinds of programming. But this is the key ingredient for any downtown and town park. And by the way, every one of your downtowns, if you have more than 100 people, should have a little space downtown. It could be the size of this room for people to hang out in. Your community living room. And like this is, I would change it every 2 weeks. So you have 26 changes, but like this is Imagination Playground. You can put that out during spring break for 2 weeks and then put it out again during the summer for 2 weeks. So 13 changes. I mean, can you imagine having the big chess sets? This they just used in a parking area. Can you imagine having a bunch of these Jenga sets? They're $79 a piece. I mean, you already have it lit up. It should be like this, lit up every single day. And if there's nothing going on, put tables and chairs out there. We might go grab a lunch. We might go hang out there. You might do chili cook-offs. You can do it. There's even bike rentals there. I mean, in the winter months, you know, if it's 40 below, maybe we're not going to be out there. But in the fall months when it's cool in the evenings, why aren't you doing that? I just think you need to activate the space. So, I mean, this is stuff we do at home. Why aren't we doing it downtown? So if you can imagine the taste of Northeast North Dakota or the Red River region or even just the taste of Grand Forks. I mean, you could project football games on a wide screen and do all kinds of activities. But what we want to do is always get a space, change it up every couple of weeks, 13 different sets, consider weather, you know, mix and match things, add security cameras, get volunteers to assist, keep it well lit. And look at this, 4 chairs and a table, $162. Add an umbrella for under $200, we've got that going. So if you bought 50 umbrellas and heavy bases, would cost some more money, and then you had a total cost of seating, and if you had 50 umbrellas, that means 50 tables, that means 200 chairs, the total cost is $16,000. And you have a place for people to go hang out. You could even, you know, in your case, it's well-defined, but in other towns, you might take an empty parking lot or something and just put these around the perimeter. But we have, in the Destination Development Association, which we created, there's all kinds of videos of how to do this in depth. But I just wanted to show you some things you could do at Town Square in Grand Forks, like that. You could do 4 to score giant games, that's on the left. You could do Jenga blocks, and you could say, okay, maybe we have a law firm. Maybe we have the university. Maybe we have somebody sponsor these, and whoever sponsors these, you put out a sandwich board. And so they can do that. You can buy these. There's those big chess sets. I mean, I think you can have these chess, in downtown New York City, you will see foosball tables and ping pong tables, even in the winter. And they're all weather resistant. These are all outdoor. But the big chess sets, I mean, all of these things you could do. It's just about having activity. You do need a place to store this stuff, so that's the thing. And you're going to change spun chairs. I mean, you can't believe how fun those things are. They just spin around in them. And so these are all ideas, musical instruments. There's just no reason why there shouldn't be. And what I say for downtown, you need 250 days worth of activity. It doesn't need to be events, activity. I mean, you know, and this is just letting vendors go in there. This is a portable skate park. You know, there's cornhole tosses. I mean, we could just keep going through this. There's the propane fire pits, badminton. This is Canmore, Alberta, which is right next to the Rocky Mountains, has the out there year-round. In the winter, people are wearing all their ski gear, and they're still out there using exercise equipment. And of course, there's the tables and chairs. There's the big giant chess sets. And we're going to get you all of this stuff. But everything I showed you, all those pages full of all that stuff, if you were to add all that up, keep adding it up, add up even more stuff, 50 tables, all these chairs and everything, if you were to buy every single thing in there, the total cost would be $76,000. But I think most of the stuff could be sponsored by companies, by employers, by anywhere. And then you get sponsored sandwich boards. And so there's that. Then there's retail blade signs. This will be the last one, and this is what I was talking about. And on the blade sign, don't tell me the name of the business. Tell me what it is that's going to pull me in your door. Chocolate, collectibles, trains, restaurant. I mean, this is Nantucket. You know, every great town has blade signs. And they do have them at consistent height and size. This is Carmel, California. This is, I mean, Valparaiso, Indiana, a little bigger scale. This would be more like in line for what you'd have in downtown Grand Forks. You know, these are Canmore, Alberta. Love these blade signs, like Kitchen Boutique. Just great. They're like $300 a sign. These are built to 100-mile-an-hour wind loads, Lethbridge, Alberta. And they just put them up. They were just, see where it says the residents, they were just putting those in there when I was there taking these pictures. But there's your general rules so that you don't get sign clutter. And none of them should be backlit. They can be lit with LED lights on the facade shining out, but no backlit signs. But even these are under awnings. So we even have that for you. And that's it, except for marketing. So now, this is mainly for the Rendezvous region. So this isn't for Julie and company because they're already doing a good job with their area. But one of the top marketing things we want to see in these 4 counties is an RVer's guide. Because you don't know what it was like for us to try to find a place to get propane. There's one place in Grand Forks that we saw Grand Forks, in Grafton that sold propane, and they're not open on weekends, and we're working all week. So we had to come down to Tractor Supply in Grand Forks to fill 2 propane tanks. I mean, that's more than 100 miles round trip. And then the parks director says, you know, we actually have a propane tank. We'll fill it for you. It's just that if we fill a tank for somebody in town says, you're trying to compete with the private sector. I mean, it's just so much of this kind of attitude. It just drove me crazy. But RVers, we shop where locals shop. So we're different than hotel overnight stays. We shop at your grocery stores. I mean, we've been in Hugo's in Grafton every week for 4 weeks, just like any local person would be. You know, so that's what we do that's different. And so we'd love to see an RVer's guide to this whole Rendezvous region. And then this is what we think they should do. You pick your season, pick your passion. You need to tell people we're open year-round in North Dakota. So you pick your season, pick your passion. And just from what I've heard, this is how it works. There you go, September through May, then June, July, and August, right? Just joking with you. But that's what people tell us. It's like, really? Okay, so let me do it right here. So there we go. There you go. And this is what I think you should do. Particularly for the Rendezvous region. You know, pick your season. And now, if you pick winter, now pick your passion. Which one do you want? And we'll show you where you can find it. And so if they pick, oh, I'm interested in ice fishing, then we might show a photograph and where it is, what they'll catch, all this kind of stuff. So this is just very basic. But here's one other thing that's really, really important to marketing. Promote your top 3. Condé Nast Traveler, Travel Leisure Magazine, USA Today. All of them promote top 3, top 5, top 7, top 10. They don't go past 10. when we use the internet, we will do best hiking trails near Grand Forks. Or we'll put top 3 cross-country skiing near Grand Forks or in North Dakota. Or we never put in trails in North Dakota. We want to narrow it down. We want the best. So when you do this, top 3 hiking trails, or you do top 3 golf courses, or you do top 3 fly fishing. And by the way, if we say top 3 hiking trails, and if you like those, go to our website. We've got 3 more for you, and then 3 more, and then 3 more. Always promote your anchor tenants. Always. And by the way, if you want to get more social media influencers to come here, they're Googling the same thing, and they'll use your list as their list. And so we're your top 3 walleye fishing lakes. I mean, there's tons of fishing lakes around here. Top 3 whatever it is, top 3 bird hunting. And then I would do a rendezvous history trail north of here. I think that could include in Grand Forks. I'd love to see some history trails, but we have to have some consistency when and if these places are ever open. And then you can even do an antiques trail if you want, or any kind. People love trails. Brew trails, you know, brew pub trails. We're working in Livingston County, New York, in western New York, near the Finger Lakes, and they did the Libations Loop. And it has distilleries, breweries, and wineries. And so all of these kinds of things you could do. What we'd love to do is if we're trying to attract people from Fargo, for instance, or Minneapolis, or I don't know, anywhere else, we want to tell them, where should we gas up? Where can we pick up supplies if we're heading up into these rural areas? If we're fishing, where do we get a fishing license? We want details. Where to have lunch or dinner? Where to stay? What else should we do while we're there? By the way, nationally, less than 15% of visitors go to a state tourism website or local tourism websites that are destination marketing organizations, because generally we provide lists. Here's our restaurants, here's our places. We aren't helpful. When you say top 3, yes, you got to pay the politics. But usually that's helpful. I want help, not lists. And so that is where the challenge is. And I think you really need to think like a travel writer that say, I want you to go here, and then I want you to spend 2 hours at this museum, then go over and have lunch. And when you have lunch, you got to try their Reuben. It's really awesome. And then for dessert, try the bread pudding. And then that's what we want. We want sample itineraries. We want things that are helpful, and they will pull us into private businesses. So with that, we actually have a survey up there. And you can snap a picture of this, write it down, but it is case sensitive. We want everybody to take this. And they can live we don't care where they live, because we ask, where do you live? We're interested in what Minneapolis or people in Minnesota think of you, just like we're interested in what you think of you. But this is out there. It's going to be out there until about Thanksgiving. And we want everybody to do this survey. So if you don't mind putting it on your websites, passing it along to your friends, to your family, weigh in. What do you want? So we're here, and we'll be working on this project until next spring, and we want to know, and I ask, by the way, in this questionnaire, we ask, what do you think your 3 greatest assets are? What do you think your 3 greatest challenges are? If we could add one more thing to the community you live in, what would it be? So there's like 9 questions or 10 questions. That's it. And it's all open-ended. It's not multiple choice. We just want to hear, what are your thoughts? What can we do to make the place we call home even better? So we can put it in this plan. Does that make sense? And then finally, where do we go from here? Is this. Let us know if you want to be part of this. You know, and there's some communities that may not. I mean, like yesterday, I was there and talking to the mayor of this town I was in, went like this. He didn't want to hear anything about it. He just literally was like this during our meeting. And so some communities may say, Roger, you know, I think what you're doing is cool, but we're set. We're done. We don't want any growth. We don't want any tourism. And by the way, when we're talking about tourism, we're talking about people driving by to stop and have lunch somewhere. We're trying to help a small business succeed. And so that's what we're talking to. So, and then, you know, we want every town to create the destination Northwood team. Just locals, 2 or 3 people. They're just saying, okay, what can we do? And then what you'll do is we're going to give everybody will have access to this and say, let's pick 4 things we do between now and next March. And it might say, well, we're not going to put out our pots, but let's go get them. Or benches or chairs or anything else you want to do. So we're just saying, go through these, pick 4 things we want to work on, then figure out, create a little plan on how to do them. Turn suggestions into recommendations. And then, you know, and then you could say, Roger, you didn't cover this, or you did cover this. Now, one thing that's really important is when we usually do an assessment, it's one city. So in Grand Forks, for instance, we did the entire county for what we normally charge to do a city. So you're saying, well, you didn't dig very deep in Grand Forks, and that is true. You know, we went and saw, we saw the great things. I mean, you know what? We're like everybody else north of Grand Forks. We know 32nd. You know, Target, Walmart, Menards, everything. We know 30. We learned that really quick. You know, and so, you know, we've learned a lot of those things. And we've been up, is it Washington, the main north-south? I mean, we've been up and down that. I didn't photograph it because it's like every other big city. It's all the auto dealerships and everything. And so, you know, but we had to do this whole county for that. And so but I think we got it to know it pretty well. And then finally, when you create this little team, and this is just a way to get tourism, chambers of commerce, economic development, everybody working together, and because you're a lot more powerful as one loud voice than a bunch of little voices. And everybody should be joined at the hip. You know, and this is typically who you might have. And that's so important, this last one. You know, we've worked in towns where you know, I mean, all these towns should be going to their seniors in high school and say, will you ever come back? And if so, when? And and if you say, nope, we're done, we're blowing this town, then say, what would it take to get you back? And then you have your marching orders. And so finally, with all of this, here's to making this an even better, thriving, great place to live. And that's all I got for that. Whew.